conferences used to be all about professional development, leaving different than you arrived.
My initial reaction was, oh, he is saying exactly what I've felt for probably the past 2 years for a lot of these events.
That's it. That's it.
All right, Jon and Marc here with always the best dressed individual at every legal conference, Dave Thomas.
Oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Dave Thomas oversees business development at Law Tigers.
That's correct.
We've known Dave for a number of years. We see him at every legal conference. Everyone sees Dave at every legal conference. He's extremely outgoing, genuinely nice human being. And when Marc and I saw your video post from a couple days ago, basically roasting every legal conference, we had to sit down and talk to you about that.
Well, hey, guys, I appreciate you guys actually even tuning in on LinkedIn. But yeah, I caught some flack for that over the last 24 hours. But I think the topic was legal conference overkill. And I even said this, man, it's a real thing. And I think we all would agree on that, maybe some enclosed doors. But guys like us that's been around for a while, I think we feel comfortable to really just keep it real. And it's getting to a point where I've been doing this for 7 years and I've seen a shift from value to more so quantitative approach where it just has to happen. Conferences on top of conferences, but with lower substance and more appeal to just kind of hanging out and partying.
I've watched the video multiple times now. I thought it was, I wouldn't say it's roasting the conferences. I think you're making very valuable points from a good place. You're saying as an industry, we can do better.
Yes.
Like the industry has changed. We're adding more and more conferences and each conference is just having less and less substance. It seems a lot more rinse and repeat on certain events.
Yes.
And the vendors as well as the lawyers just seem to be getting a little bit less value on each one. And there is an opportunity for us to do better. And I think your video is a cry out to rally everyone that goes to them, like, we can do better and we should do better. And this should start the conversation of what we should be doing to moving forward.
I agree 100% on that. Thanks for framing that because that's exactly what I meant. I didn't want to come down punching down or beating down on anyone. But I wanted to say, you know what, we do have a voice. And if we truly are in it to make each other better, right, to add value and to grow each other's businesses, someone has to speak up and say, hey, let's rethink some things and let's see how we can improve and get better. Because, like I said, these conferences is really disguised, these strategy sessions, and then you show up and it's just like a big party. It is a big party. It's more emphasis on where you're going to hang out than who are you going to meet with.
Which dinner reservation, which after party are you going to?
That's it. Attorneys now, they'll come up to you and before it was like, hey, what do you have going on? They want to know about your product, they want to know about your services, or even if you can recommend them a company. Now they're coming up to me and Dave and say, hey, where are you going to be at tonight? And I don't know, guys. I mean, I have a beautiful family at home and I have a huge responsibility to be a leader, outside of the office, but inside the office. And I'm not on the road tour to just come hang out and party. Those days are over for me. Now, do I like to socialize and network? Absolutely. I love that part. Everybody knows that about me. But, these events, let's just be clear. It doesn't happen without its vendors.
Yeah.
And then so it's one thing to come in like a fifth tire, right? But, when you look at, the food that's being served or even the venue, we're paying for this, And I think we deserve better, but more importantly, the attorneys deserve better.
When someone is looking at what conference should I attend?
Yeah.
Right. Let's break down the things of value that actually come out of a conference. Okay. First and foremost, there's the speakers, right?
Yes.
We're here at the Lanier Trial Academy. We have one speaker, right? Marc Lanier. I think we can check that box.
Yes.
With this conference that the speaker is the penultimate speaker that you want. So you have speakers, you have networking.
Yes.
Right? You have vendors. Okay. What are some of the other things of value that maybe are not so obvious that someone should be getting out of a conference?
It's the really greatest takeaway. The way that, thanks for bringing up, you were at the Lanier Trial Academy, and this is one of my favorite conferences. It's oddly enough, a lot of vendors say, man, this guy can really keep the attention of attorneys. They barely even, they hold their pee to even go out for a pee break. And I look at that as really a plus, a value deal where it's going to attract serious attorneys. And I think it's the content and then also creating an educational environment. Conferences used to be all about professional development, leaving different than you arrived. And now, I hate to say it, man, I've seen some stuff, and I'm just gonna, I don't hide much. I've seen people, been in healthy relationships, lose their relationship because they're on this road, every other week and not growing anything but their ego and reliving maybe some lost times in the past. And so, my thought process and kind of pivoting, I truly feel that the vendors, we have so many great platforms and tools. Some of us, we duplicate our efforts, but I think there's value in most vendors that are selected to come to these events. We need to come together as vendors and collectively, I feel that there's an opportunity for us to put on a heck of a marketing show, because when you look at, the scalability and growing law firms outside of the area of practicing law, it's us who is actually driving the needle in the positive, direction. So how about us? That was it was a cry out. It was a calling. Like literally, I looked at the impressions on the post and it didn't reflect. I don't really care about the likes. I look at the impressions because I know people are hearing me, right? But I also want to challenge people to feel like it's okay to speak on this, because some people were like, Dave, you're not going to get invited to any conferences anymore. I was like, oh, geez, man. I hope that's not the outcome of this. But it sounds like it affected you guys in a positive way. Can I turn the question back on you guys?
Yeah.
What was your initial kind of response from just listening to the video or even reading some of the content?
My initial reaction was, it was just like, I can't believe it. But like, it literally, I watched it all the way through and I was like, he is saying exactly what I've felt for probably the past 2 years for a lot of these events. I don't know if it was a distinct moment in time, but I feel like there is like maybe COVID happened, post-COVID, and since COVID, there's been a less of an energy at these conferences where a lot of the attendees feel like they're required to go. Even the attorneys, they're going because they have to. They check that box and stuff like that. But I really appreciated the message, and I think it is an opportunity to make it better for everyone. We come to these a lot through the year. Jon and I, in the past, both of us used to attend every conference.
Yes.
We both went, and now we're like, okay, let's pick and choose. Like we both have family, we have kids, like divide and conquer for conferences a lot of the times. And then we do an analysis on which ones historically have been very fruitful for us to have, where we notice that the lawyers that are attending are excited to be there, and we make sure we attend those. And then both of us, and then some other ones, we make sure we go to show our face, or we're committed to the organizations. We're committed to being sponsors. So we're going to show up and do our parts, do our sessions. But maybe when we won't send a full team, or both of us won't go.
Yeah, no, that's great insight. And let's talk about the effect. And you guys are probably like, Dave, what are you talking about? There's a cause and effect to most things in life, but it's the Michael Mogul effect. I said it, guys. The Michael Mogul effect really turned this industry upside down when it came to what I call like FOMO, like fear of missing out. A lot of companies said, you know what? If he can throw these conferences and give away some vehicles and sign some folks up, this is a heck of a way to grow a business.
Yeah.
I can't lie. I mean, it kind of Ari and I, we went into the conference room and was like, his name came up first. Like, how could we do our own thing? Kind of like how Michael Mogul does, And
I live in Atlanta. It's impressive. It's impressive what he puts on.
Yeah.
He like fills Mercedes-Benz Arena, like the floor.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about the very first one, that he had, and I think that a lot of, companies, vendors, services, they decided to say, okay, let's just throw our own conference. There's nothing wrong with that. But once again, there has to be strategy, like Jon mentioned. There has to be some strategy behind it. And you have to have a value proposition where you're driving value, not just an experience. I mean, a lot of folks are just coming to say, man, did you see how many people were at my conference or at my party? And we did this, and Dan's going to kill me. We played ping pong all night. And, I think it's less experience, man. It's more so substance and literally what I can bring back to my firm that's going to help me grow in a positive manner. What are your thoughts on that?
The law firm space can get very homogenized. Okay. And people come to these conferences, law firms come to these conferences to try and identify ways that they can stand out amongst their peers. And as the content of the conferences gets watered down, as presentations are regurgitated from conference to conference, that was a point that you had made. I think you lose that aura of, I'm going to bring something back to my firm that is actually actionable. And that happens at a lot of these conferences. You also get the party effect, right?
Yes.
Where it's less about what happens during the day and more about what happens during the night. Many people go to these conferences to get their CLEs, right? They have to be here during the day. They have to get sign off to get their CLE credits.
Yes.
But that is sort of the precursor for them to be able to then go out and network and party and have a good time. But over the years, like let's just say since post-COVID, budgets are up and down, right? The economy continues to shift and firms are reevaluating. Is this a good, back to your point about like, am I getting a return? Firms, vendors really are starting to think about like, it's costing me X thousands of dollars to send my team or to send an individual.
Yes.
Am I going to see a return? And you've got 2 or 3 years that we've been post-COVID where this cycle has been going and maybe people are starting to not see the return that they expect. And over time, you're going to see even more diminishing returns.
And to Dave made
very helpful information.
A really good point earlier. The cost for anyone attending these, it is pretty significant. So most of these are always during the week. Yes. So there's travel costs. So we're flying out somewhere where hotel and like lodging, usually in a nice hotel, so it's not the cheapest event. Right. Airfare, all that kind of stuff, travel. Then you have to leave your family. There's added cost associated. Most people that attend these conferences are of the age where they have a family. Yes. That's just the demographic. You're leaving your family. And not only that, you are leaving work for 2, 3, 4 days. Or if you're a lawyer or if you're a vendor and you're running a business, most of these businesses are small, medium-sized businesses where everyone's very busy. Yes. So you are stepping away from work for 2 to 3, 4 days. The lawyers, sometimes you see them, they're either in a session or they're just running out trying to work while being here. It's a very big commitment to step away for a couple of days.
That's right. Time is money as well. I mean, you look at your ROI, same thing when you're tracking your time. And, another concerning factor of these conferences, it really leads to the environment of what I've seen really change over the last 2 or 3 years. And I'm not sure if it was due to COVID, but it used to be.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know if it's because of COVID, but we both feel it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, the environments are different. I mean, you have some, what I call the new folks that have entered the scene. So they don't really know better, but we do. Yeah. And I feel that, right now there's a shift in the industry where I think a lot of these attorneys are being, kind of oversold when going to these events. And even as vendors, we keep showing up, even if the ROI isn't there. And I'm like, who does that? I mean, who can afford to do that? So how do we fix it? Let's talk about some solutions. How do we fix this?
I'm going to say, I'm speaking on my own personal opinion on things. I'm not representing any company, but I will say from doing the analysis, the ROI from the financial commitment to the return over the past couple of years has definitely not been. The math has not checked out as much.
It starts with the core reason why people come to these conferences is for the content. Okay, we don't have to have that debate at Linear Trial Academy because the content is going to be 5-star. When I go to conferences and I am asked to speak, the amount of time that I spend on my presentations and making sure that I'm giving information to people that they can walk away with, hey, I learned something. I may not be able to do it. I may not fully understand all aspects of it, but I learned that this is something that other firms are doing and can be valuable. If everyone who got on stage did that and they said, what can I present that people can leave with something of value? You would have 10, 20, 30, 40 presentations where you can now choose 40 different nuggets of information for you to bring back to your firm to make it actionable, to in turn get that return. I think it starts with the speakers.
I think that's huge. And I've said on many of your talks, you're a gifted speaker and your content is through the roof. I have an opportunity to do this for a living across the country. And I like to think that my content is in alignment with the value as well. Where we fall into a trap is it's called the pay to play stuff.
Yep.
And so
for those who aren't familiar, how it works is if you're a vendor and you are a certain level sponsor, you then get a speaking opportunity or slot assigned to you at the conference for being a sponsor.
At some conferences, not all conferences.
Not all at some, but it's usually how it works.
And they're not always disclosed, right? It's not like Google ads. You don't have a sponsored label, right? You don't know the difference between the real content that was asked to be there and the content that paid to be there.
100%. And so that's another ongoing issue. The pay-to-play folks that arrive on stage, ill-prepared, outdated content, unbelievable content.
Yeah.
And
sometimes there's a big sales pitch.
100%.
You didn't want to say, but
you took the words out of my mouth because they're thinking about the dollars that got me this 30 minutes. So they're like, you know what? How much information can I put into these 30 minutes that's going to give me a sale?
Yeah.
You know, the best speakers are not looking for the sale. They're looking to drive education again to really dive into the substance or matter of expertise that again is going to be helpful to the audience, where you can actually take some nuggets home and decipher and see what's going to work for your firm. And that's what I love about sitting on your talks. And so you know, in the spirit of really what I call confrontation, I swing it to carefrontation. And this is why we're surrounding this table today. Is, you know, some people have a problem with confrontation. That's why I flip it to carefrontation. My opinion and view on carefrontation is you're going to confront a situation or someone because you care and you want to make each other better. Not that you're right. And I think that's why we're huddled around this table today, because we all are diving in some deep carefrontation involving these conferences. And so I would love for any listener that's tuned in to reach out to either three of us, and I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to kind of share how to reach us, because I think it's going to be a collective collaboration on some ideas on how we can improve. And I know there's an opportunity. Whenever there's a pain point, there's a solution. Yeah. And right now we have a great opportunity to improve.
I also want to call it too. I think your point you made was very good, that we're not, you in your video, you weren't specifically calling out a conference or a conference company that hosts particular things. We're not calling in anyone out individually. We're calling out as a cry for help to make a change.
Yes.
And I think that's really important for us to do. And let's start talking about, okay, what are some things that we can come up with ideas that we can help improve things moving forward? So like, for example, let's talk about presentations. It is pay to play, but there should be a little bit more rigor and quality control around who gets to speak, when you get to speak, and how good was the content. Like, for example, this is a silly example, but when I used to work at Salesforce, if you were above a certain level of a manager, anytime you spoke publicly to a customer or to an employee, you got rated by everyone in the room on how good your presentation was.
Yes, I remember those days.
So the same thing. If you are a presentation, you give presentations at a conference, and either a attendee of who is running the conference needs to score and grade your presentation, as well as the audience should be surveyed on whether or not your information was good or bad. And before that, they should vet your information, your deck, to make sure it's good, your presentation's good before going into it. So there is some quality control of, hey, I understand you're a vendor. We want you to have your speaking opportunity, but you need to become prepared and you need to give valuable information. And hey, is this the presentation that you gave earlier this year at another conference? If so, it needs to be different. Like, there needs to be I'm trying to come up with some ideas of how we can start improving the quality of the product we're putting out there in front of the attorneys to make it more valuable as well.
I love that, man. You're right. I mean, it's, I can remember those days. I grew up in the Toastmasters days, you know, where that was a requirement. You had to go through the Toastmasters training and for public speaking. But, you know, to your point too, I think agenda wise, a lot of conferences, the Ghetto Boy Network, I fall in that. I'm very well connected and hopefully respected. And so I get often asked to go, you know, speak without paying, right? Because they just want to hear what I have to say. But we have to be mindful of not being too repetitive, right? I've actually turned down a speaking engagement. I don't know if you guys ever do that. And they're always like, what are you doing that for? They keep asking me to talk about the same stuff, community relations, grassroots. And I pushed back. I said, hey, can I talk about something else? You know, oh, that's what you guys do well, Dave, grassroots, you know, at Law Talkers. I'm like, well, I'm not your guy. Get somebody else. And there's an opportunity to just hear a different voice and maybe another perspective. But when you have another opportunity, I could talk about something else, hit your boy out, that type of deal.
And here we are.
Yeah. That's right. That's true.
You took a stand with a specific position and an opinion. We saw it, we engaged with it. We physically went up to you and said, hey, we want to talk to you more about that. And that led to this. And that is the power of a good conference.
Yes.
It allowed us to connect in person and engage and have the opportunity to have a conversation about something that you don't normally get the opportunity to speak about.
I also think, for example, the conferences can potentially survey attendees and maybe get topics of content that they're interested in, and then fulfill those content needs with vendors accordingly for those sessions. So whatever's coming out of this conference, everyone wants to know about AI tools, certain things that Mark said. There's a lot of specific content that we've not done yet that we can cover in different areas based on what's topically relevant that people care about.
That's a great point. We often build things and hope people will come. We do that even with our own companies. Sometimes you have to go ahead and customize things to what's important to others. And the only way we can find out is by listening and doing those questions and evaluations. I think that's great. That's a golden nugget, man. I like that stuff.
So we talked about presentations, right? I think we have like key ways that presentations can be improved. Let's talk about the vendor experience.
Yes.
Right? We are here as vendors to come and have the opportunity to present our wares in front of a very highly targeted audience.
Yes.
The current format for that at every one of these conferences is the vendor hall. Okay. It's a big room or series of rooms where people have to go out of their way to walk by and meet.
If you're in the room, sometimes you're in the hallway.
That's true. That's true.
Yep. And depends on the conference. Sometimes you're on the other side from where everybody is, but
that's right.
Be that as it may, how do we improve the vendor experience? How do we make sure that vendors are getting value out of their appearance at these conferences so that they want to come back again and do it next year and they find value in a specific conference?
Yeah, I think it's a level of respect. Great stuff, man. I get excited about this. I mean, legitimately, that's why I'm smiling, because it's so important. I've specific conferences off of my list because I felt that they did very little to market vendors and really treated us almost like the redheaded stepchild. And no offense to any redheads out there, but I love redheads. I love my wife more, but you know what I mean. All right, so you can cut that out. However, my point is just that. I mean, it starts with the level of respect and vetting your vendors. I think you run into a situation when you're just looking for money to support your event, so you don't care who signs up, and then now that sets a miss, kind of precedence on, are we going to have value in the vendor hall? So a lot of attorneys, they avoid us because they feel as if, they're going to, they have some rookies out here that are just overselling, their elevator pitch. So I think it starts with vetting and then the respect level mutually between who's throwing the conference and the vendors. It comes together, and I think that it's going to be more credible. So the credibility between the person that's throwing the conference and us vendors has to be mutually, agreed upon. So we have to do our part, but they have to do their part to create that quality, vendor experience.
Agreed. I think I think your video is, even if it'd be even more impactful if we also heard that kind of message coming from some of the attorneys as well.
Yes.
I think this might be an opportunity where people vote with their dollar a little more, and vendors, like you said, like I think a lot of shows we've gone to, we kind of feel beholden to go to because we've always gone to them. We love the people that run them. We have great relations. It's like a second family you go to for these conferences, people you worked with for years. So like you want to help them out. You want to make sure they're successful because they need money. But it's like at some point, if you're not getting the value from them as a vendor, you need to stop going. And attorneys just know if certain conferences aren't delivering the value that they're expected for their time, they need to just not go and focus their time on a couple less events per year potentially.
Yes, and it took me a little time to really understand that majority of the business is done outside of the vendor hall. I was sitting there, I felt so bad. It's like the first 2 years when I'm sitting in my booth, I'm so excited. I'm standing out there, winning friends, influencing people, shaking hands. Some of the successful companies, they're always going to these meetings. They're popping in and out, And then so I caught on because obviously just through network and saying, oh, wow, Now I'm included in some of those discussions and tables and breakfast, early morning breakfast before the vendor breakfast, that type of stuff. Nothing wrong with that because, you're going to have your own, detail when you come here. I set up pre-meetings for every event, but I still think that we need to bring the value back to the vendor hall, right? Companies going to have to do better too. I'm seeing a big shift in who's representing their company. They have laptops popped up. And I'm going to piss a lot of people off, but they have their table in front of their booth. They have their laptops open and their head is down. If I can go in the vendor hall after this recording today, sitting with you guys, I can do a scan. It's going to be about 50% of people disengaged, head down, not engaging with anyone. And then they go back to their companies and say, man, what a horrible event. There was no traffic, no flow. But of the traffic that was flowing, you couldn't even pay attention to that because you're locked into working at your booth. So there's a number of things here. I know I'm kind of dancing around. So there's a number of things to fix, but it all goes back to quality over quantity, right? Same thing with the vendor halls. I don't think it's necessary to see how many people we can jam pack in a room. Let's vet them and let's bring the best of the best. So now the attorney is going to have value by, you know what, I need to go into the vendor hall because there's going to be something that my firm needs, to help us grow and help us scale.
I'm not going to call out any particular conferences, but there is a couple conferences per year that I know that I don't know if the percentage of the people that attend the conference don't register. That where there's a couple large ones per year where most of the meetings we have are with attorneys that are at the conference, but they're not actually registered. Yeah. And they're all hanging out in and around the conference.
The cabanas.
Correct. I'm not naming any names, but it's a common trend as well where they don't see the value in attending the conference, but they know people are there to meet with them. So they'll fly in, they'll stay at the nice hotel, they won't attend any of the sessions, and they'll meet with people outside.
Tangible solutions for this, right? Yes. From a vendor perspective, you took the words right out of my mouth. Quality over quantity. As a vendor, would you be willing to pay more to have less vendors around you? If there were only 10 vendors that could attend the conference, but you had to pay twice or three times as much, would that be of value to you?
Absolutely. And I say this because I'm not giving the shameless plug, but for Law Tigers, we should do our summits. That's how we arrived to the Motorcycle Accident Summit. It was just our members, and we only brought in a couple handful of vendors, and they loved it. They had access to our members, and it was a small, very intimate conference, but the value was just through the roof. And in fact, here's just letting the cat out the bag. We're taking a step back from growing the Motorcycle Accident Summit because we were just kind of growing into more of the conference world things, and that's not important to us. We want to get back to what's in line with our brand, and that's really just quality over quantity. So we're going to kind of, I give you a little bit. We're going to kind of do a larger mastermind kind of / leadership retreat conference. But I'm glad you brought that up because that's the, kind of the valuation when we got back to Scottsdale after our most recent conference. We said, what did we do good? Where's our opportunities? You kind of do your SWOT analysis, right? On your conference. And we arrived back there. We was like, you know what? What's the end goal with this? We don't want to grow into this big, massive 850, attorney attendee that's not what we're after.
You're an events company.
Yes. So we're going back to give you more value. We're going to bring in leadership experts. We want you to grow, not just professionally, but also individually. So now I'm telling too much, but it's going to be a very excitable experience. And we're going to cap it to, I think, 15 to 20 vendors. It's going to be very cool.
That's really interesting to hear. It seems like niche communities, like the motorcycle community,
yes,
they rally around each other, and sharing amongst a high level of peers seems to be the direction that the legal space is going. We see mastermind groups popping up regionally. We see them popping up in specific niches. So it's very interesting. I don't know if you want to share more about that or if you want to leave it.
No, I think it's great. Strategically, I kind of go for the smaller events. I think I get way more traction out of smaller events because the quality is there. Not to pick on some of the national events because we're great partners with National Trial Lawyers, and I think that's a very great event in Miami, among some others. But what we're going to do at Law Tigers, once again, we want to, I'm letting the cat out the bag. We're even going to limit it to specific attendees on the attorney side. Can you believe that? Yeah, yeah. We're gonna go after like 2 per state. Really, it's the best in class. We really want it to be a very high level, high quality event, and we're going to bring in some of the experts, trainers, Tony Robinson type of folks, and kind of combined it with legal acumen, but also professional development. We want you to go back to your firms and be a better leader to your people, and just be revigorated. Just understanding on how to thrive in your environment. So, man, it's going to be some exciting stuff.
Very, very interesting. The old adage of less is more actually is coming back around full circle, and you guys are doing that with your event.
Yeah, so. And I think it really aligns to these experiences, man. You go to these conferences and you get back home to your families, get back home to your office, and you're like, wait a minute, okay, I got a few leads and maybe ran into a few folks that I've been talking to, but where was the value in all that? Like I said, you get your heavy doses of sodium. If you choose to protect, you definitely get all the free alcohol you want. But is that really purposeful? Is that really driving results? I need to hang out with guys like you guys because I know I'm finding you in the gym in the morning. You guys already told me that's where you guys are gonna be. That's where you want to be, around folks like yourself.
Yeah, I remember even when I first came in the industry, I was a little younger back then, but I remember I don't feel like I wanted to do it, but I also kind of was guilt tripped to be at all the events all night. Be like, that's where everyone's gonna be. We need you there. And I was like, I just wake up the next day and I'm like, I got no sleep. I'm hungover, and I don't think I had any substantial conversations out of this thing.
No,
I had
you remember them.
No, you don't. So I think this is such a healthy conversation. And I think in closure, if you guys want to talk about just, what's next, what do you see next for the legal conference? If you had a magic wand, what would that look like? Just in a high level overview.
It's interesting that you asked that question. So this past week, here we are, it's the middle of June, right? I don't know when people are going to be watching this, but a couple of weeks ago, Google made a whole bunch of announcements about what they're doing with AI. And Mark and I sat down and we said, okay, we need to deliver a message. We need to very clearly lay out, we need to educate people. This is what this actually means. And we had the option. We said, we can make videos like this and just pump it out and hope we hit the right people. We could host a webinar and get people to sign up for it. Or we can be extremely targeted and make sure that everyone who attends gets value out of it. So we reached out to all of our clients and we said, this is important. I'm going to be here live. I want you to ask questions. I want you to join live if you can. If you can, I'm going to send you the recording, but we're going to educate you for an hour. And we really would appreciate it if you would listen. And the attendance, the percentage of people of our clients who actually attended was almost everybody sent somebody from their firm.
Wow.
I think that's where we're going. Maybe not in that format, but I think when you have a topic or a message to deliver, figuring out how you can get the smallest possible niche audience that reaches everyone that you want to reach.
That's right.
That's the way to deliver your message. No more shotgun approach, right? You need to just get to the people who need to hear the message as directly as possible. And that's going to change depending on what the format is and what the topic is.
Oh, I love that. And that's aligned with what we're doing at Law Tigers. And I love that, man. I think it's not only appropriate, but it's necessary, right? I don't think this is sustainable. That's what I'm saying. The formats of these larger conferences, for anyone that's looking to truly drive change, right? And improvement, because legitimately it's, these frat parties and sorority parties, man.
I resemble those remarks.
Enough is enough. You're a fraternity guy. Yeah. So am I. And that's why sometimes I get around and I'm like, man, the old Dave comes out.
I would love to see there also be more creative ways for vendors to get involved in these events, right? Yes. We talked about speaking, we talked about the vendor hall, but are there other ways that vendors can participate in ways that add value to themselves and add values?
I just had a deep breath in the sigh because I'm gonna spill the beans on our freaking conference. So yes, we're going to be very selective on attorney side. It's like I said, it's going to be like a kind of a overpowered leadership retreat / mastermind, and the vendors will not be separated from the attendees. They're going to go through everything together. Now, we won't do any fireworks, but there's going to be some cool things like rope courses where we feel that people can go up to the room and get into their sportswear. We're going to just push them out of their comfort zone because I feel that there's extreme danger in the comfort zone, right? And then we're going to build together, even outside of things. I mean, you got Big Dave here. I'm going to do some stuff that you're going to be like, you're up that high? Yes. Yes, we're going to push the envelope because that's where the relationship and the connection happens. The more vulnerable you are in those situations. And then so, because once again, it's cool to do it over a toast or a drink or an open bar. But what if you go out and you really find out others' weaknesses? That may be your strength or there are blocks that's holding them back, not just in being a better attorney, but a better person. What if you did that and it sounded a little kumbaya-ish, but what if you experienced that together? What type of relationship will you walk away with in trust? Because at the end of the day, people do business with people they like and trust.
100%. I cannot echo that statement enough. People do business with people they like and trust.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And how you create that environment. Now, anybody that knocks off our conference, I'm coming for you. We have to do it first. I'm just joking.
The support of vendors, I think, lacks creativity. I think, thinking about ways that you can
create unique experiences that
Yes.
intertwines the community doesn't separate the attorneys and the vendors.
Yes.
The legal industry, everybody knows this, but no one really wants to talk about it. But the legal industry is about a decade behind other industries.
Oh, yes.
In many different ways.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I think
Public knowledge.
when you look at the vendors at legal conferences, most of them are in some way tech enabled, right?
100%.
Or at least they're run more modernly than a law firm is.
100%.
Just having the ability to communicate with vendors about how they run their business could take a law firm without purchasing anything, right? You're adding value to the law firm by having them get exposure to businesses that are run in a way that is different than the way that the traditional law firm runs. Things like utilizing different software tools. Maybe it's not the tool I'm selling you, but maybe it's the tool that we use in our business. You learn from that. And I learn from you things that you do in your law firm, pain points that you have. That's value that's like beneath the surface that I think needs more exposure.
Yes, and just think about how powerful, the breakout sessions. There's some conferences that are coming up where they're a little on the smaller side, like TGR, our guy Berkowitz.
Jay Berkowitz?
Jay Berkowitz. He had one in West Palm. Give you a shout out, Jay. But I saw him do something very cool. He posted a LinkedIn when they got knee to knee. Were you there? Did you see that exchange where they did like a speed dating deal with everyone? Like all attendees and vendors, where they did a speed dating. I saw Mike Morris, who was part of it too. And so you got to know everyone within a short time. It was like a speed dating deal. I thought that was very out of the box thinking. But you're only able to do that if it's, like you said, a more qualitative approach, smaller, valuable conference. And so I think that's where we're headed.
I think there's opportunities to change some sessions where maybe all sessions are presented with a vendor and an attorney co-presenting on the topic, so forcing people to collaborate together and building relationships that way. And, not to toot my own horn, but like there's a lot of stuff I would love to speak about that is just not usually the topics that like talk tracks for these events. We get asked to talk about marketing all the time. They give us tell us your top tips and tricks and stuff like that. But like I have an incredible team of employees that I've built an incredible culture that I believe most of my employees will run through a wall for me. I have the amazing people. I would love to talk about how I recruit, hire, and manage culture at our company.
Wow.
But that's never usually a subject of interest. So there's so many other things of varying things that we could talk about outside of just what we always get asked to talk about.
And that's the important stuff, because we can provide you with all the tools you want. If you don't have the right people in the right seats on the bus and they're not properly motivated, oh wow, that's another show. There's a lot of false leadership out here,
Yeah.
And we know that, guys. I come from the world of, .com. I was an early member of jobbing.com, number 8 hire, and we grew that thing tremendously. I was another early company. I was known for just kind of this startup guy. They used to call me the startup guy, sound physicians. And so, but where I'm going with this is not giving the shameless plug that I love startups, but it's all about people. That's why when you hear my talks, it's you cannot grow anything in a meaningful, purposeful manner without having the right people on your team. So you bring that up. It just hits right home for me, because, it's, we get flattered with a lot of folks that try to do what we do, and they start their own kind of companies. I'm not picking on you guys, but I love how Ari responds to it. He doesn't get frightened. He doesn't care. He says, you know what, man? It's all about the E. Execution.
Yeah.
You can know hey, here's the blueprint. Just execute.
Yeah.
Try to do that. That's the part. It's not that easy. And so, but all those tools that we do have and know-hows and through experiences, you worked at, I met you at even a different company. I was always impressed by you. And so, but we come with so many different, not just ideas, but different skill sets, right? Through experiences. And collectively, this brings me to our next step in this conversation. I've been kind of holding on to this. This is more so on the personal side. This has nothing to do even with Law Tigers, but I do feel that the industry, there's a void or a gap in the industry for kind of a high-tech vendor conference, vendor-focused conference. And I got
not just focused around one piece of software.
No.
Yes.
No,
I
I'm
agree.
talking about, like, let's like turn this thing up, man. Like the best of the best. Let's I really feel that attorneys will come because they want to know what they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get this new, especially with AI, the stuff that you guys are doing, even what we're doing. If we can bring the best of the best, first in class vendors and put on our own conference.
Dave, we wanted to get rid of conferences. Now we're adding conferences.
Well, no. Yeah. But we're talking about a value added conference.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to drive change. Because once you match that up against what the status quo, then they'll be able to compare, apples to oranges and say, this is way more impactful and way more valuable. But then also, I think it's going to bridge the gap of vendors just want to sell their services. How can we impact them with, like I said, really great information and tools that's going to help them thrive and not just survive?
I will say, for those of you that haven't seen it, the first time I ever interviewed Dave, he alluded to it, was when I was with Litify, and I was doing a marketing roundtable, and we had experts on different areas of marketing. And I said, I needed someone to talk about boots on the ground stuff, grassroots.
That's right.
Call Dave.
That's right.
Right? I'm guilty as others are. And what that shows is that when you get one layer deeper than what everybody else sees, the amount of value that you can get out of a vendor, out of a networking relationship is much, much deeper than what you see at these at the vendor booths and at the conferences. So maybe the takeaway here is get to know the people who attend these conferences, vendors, attendees, people who put on the show. And there's so much more value that is already inherently there that just needs to be unlocked.
We do come here to build relationships with attorneys, but I always share it with newcomers that come into the vendor hall. They say, well, Dave, man, you're in a vendor hall a bunch, man. I said, man, it's magic happens here. But I think your focus, you may just be looking to bring in the big well. I'm just looking to connect with influencers and connectors. Influencers and connectors are all of us, can join it. So that's how you grow your business. Yeah. And so it's all through the relationship and referral. There's a great book out there called Referral Engine, shameless plug, to change your life. It changed your whole outlook on how to grow sales and business development. Yeah.
Amazing. Dave, we've talked for a long time.
Yeah,
There's so much value in this conversation alone. I hope people take away. Let's give you an opportunity to talk about Law Tigers, talk about yourself, how people can get a hold of you.
You can reach me at dave@lawtigers.com. We have a pretty cool website, lawtigersmarketing.com. I am the Senior Vice President of Business Development and Growth. Been here about 7 years. Our company, high level overview, we are a marketing agency that is designed and aligned to generate high value cases involving motorcycle accidents. And we do that for a number of clients around the country. I believe we're in 32 states, 47 markets. And if you're looking to diversify your practice with high value cases, hit your boy up, dave@lawtigers.com, lawtigersmarketing.com.
And make sure you subscribe to all of his socials.
That's right.
You can watch the same video that Mark and I watched earlier today. Dave has some great hot takes, great tips. He's very connected to the industry. He knows what's going on at the conferences, produces great content. Follow him on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Great. Jon and Mark here. Dave from Law Tigers. Thanks for tuning in.